I had the pleasure to take an exclusive early look at Endless Legend 2, and there is a lot to talk about. Now, with that said, a few things before we're jumping into the gameplay. First things first, no, this is not a sponsored video. They just gave me the key. Thank you very much for that, Hooded Horse and Amplitude Studios. And they basically just told me, like, some of the limitations which are coming with that key, that I can only play 125 turns, and that there are only 2 races in the game. Well, technically there are 3 in the game, but you can only play 2 of them. And of course that the game is not finished yet. But beyond that, I could just play to my heart's content, so much so that over the weekend I put over 20 hours into the game, and I cannot wait to play more of it. Now, with that said, let's also talk a little bit about the technical aspects of this game. Keep in mind, early access is happening in summer this year, so that means we are still like 2 to 3 months at least away from the game. But I had 60 FPS in the game, 4040p ultra settings, and it was just 60 FPS throughout the whole thing. I never dipped underneath it, and that's a pretty good thing, I guess, for everyone who's interested in my specs. Very quickly, I have a Ryzen 5800X 3D, 32 GB of RAM, and a GeForce 3080 with 12 GB of VRAM, because there are 2 versions. And yeah, really, really happy with the performance already. Tons of options there. And now there is something else, which is not necessarily a technical aspect, but kinder, and that's the interface. So it is the year 2025, and we have to talk about interfaces and UIs in strategy games. Thanks Civilization 7 for that. And the interface is really good. It's not like super in the face. It tries to be out of your view till you need it. And then when it pops up, what they are also using is a lot of nestled tooltips. So you will get or see some highlighted messages in the tooltip, right? You can hover over them, and after 1 or 2 seconds, another tooltip will pop up explaining to you what that is, where there will be highlighted words again. You can then hover over that again, and so on and so forth. You already know how this works. A lot of games are using them, especially strategy games, and I think that is the right way forward. And I really love that, because if you need information, there's tons of it out there, and it only gets into your face when you need it, and you can still enjoy the game, but it's never like you are feeling lost, like a lot of people did with Civ 7. So that's a great thing. Now, with that said, let's jump into the gameplay. So I was able to play the 2 factions, the Kin of Shaiaden and the Aspects. And yes, the Necrophages are in the game. They are unfortunately not playable as a human player right now, but they are definitely there to make things a little bit harder for everyone. And I can already say that even just with the 2 factions I played, they felt very different. You know how a lot of games have this problem that when you choose a faction slash civilization, that they're kind of similar and only a few units and a few like research parts are different, but they still feel like the blueprint they chose for all the other factions as well, and then they just changed a few aspects here and there. And I never had that feeling in Endless Legend 2. Like, the 2 civilizations slash factions really felt like completely different play styles. Like, the Kin of Shaiaden are very industrial focused. They're also bringing like some technology into the world, because they're coming from the stars, and they are still using some of that technology in that world. And again, very workshop slash industrial focus, with a little bit of influence here and there, and very, very defensive units who are playing more like a turtle, right? Like, very slow, nearly unkillable, but when they reach you, when they hit you, it hurts. And then you have the aspects who are focusing very strongly on diplomacy. They can also integrate more minor factions into their civilization very quickly. And they are also like working with a lot of dust stuff, like not primarily, like as I said, diplomacy and influence is definitely their main game, but they are also really strong in creating like a lot of like dust stuff very quickly if you are in the right regions. So they and the units are also more range slash damage focused, so very different to um, the kins, and I really enjoyed both of them. But we will definitely talk more about the two factions, and more importantly, about how they are feeling in the battle in just a few minutes later down in the video. But the first thing I also want to point out, if you have played any of the Amplitude Studios games, you will immediately getting used to this game, right? Like, they have reused a lot of the things from the previous Endless games again, like all the resources, luxury resources, some of the units, and so on and so forth. You would definitely immediately recognize and go, ah, I remember that. If you're just coming from Humankind, you will also recognize a lot of the gameplay elements very quickly, like how you are making your cities grow, right? You're putting down a camp, then you decide if that camp should be connected to an already existing city or if it should become a new city and all that. And again, like a lot of the stuff you have seen from the previous Amplitude Studio games are in here as well. And that's a good thing. I think that Amplitude has a pretty good 4X turn-based formula in their games, and they have just used that to refine it even more, and they're doing a great job on that. Now, before we are moving forward, there is one thing I really want to talk about because it is one of the main gameplay aspects in Endless Legend 2 and exclusively to Endless Legend 2. And I think it's definitely one of the cooler and interesting aspects they have in here, and that is the monsoon. Now, what does that do? Well, you can see right now in the background, like everything is pitch black, or well, it's night, dark kind of thing, and it's very gloomy, it's raining, it's a monsoon, right? And what it does when the monsoon is active, it will also create a lot of loot on the map, but can also later on create some beings in the dark, which are apparently really strong. So you have to make the decision if you want to get the loot and fight with some really strong enemies or just wait the monsoon out. And the monsoon is first showing up after about 15 to 20 turns in the game, and then is returning every 50 to 80 turns, about that. And after the monsoon is over, which also takes about like 10 to 15 turns, like that's how the whole thing works, something major will happen. And that means the water on the map recedes. The oceans will recede. So what that does is you were starting out on a small island and you will realize very quickly, oh, there's not a lot of space here. How am I supposed to expand? I don't have ships. Apparently nobody knows how to sail. What am I doing? Well, you wait for the monsoon till the water recedes, right? And then your small island will become a bigger island. And then after the next monsoon, the bigger island will become maybe a continent. And then after that, you will start to connect with other continents, you will meet more players. And this is how they basically regulate the gameplay flow without really interrupting you, right? Like, you can still expand, you can still build your armies, you can still prepare for the inevitable war you will have with somebody coming up there, right? But it will be much slower because you will be disconnected. And let's be honest here, a lot of people like to play 4X slash turn based games when they are starting out on an island, right? Because it gives them time to prepare, it gives them time to also get a feeling for the game and to control the flow of the gameplay itself. And they just said, you know what? Let's make it a mechanic. Let's make it a thing. And it works really well. but that also means it can sometimes take quite a while till you are interacting with another player, well, AI, you know, you know what I mean. And like I had that in my first game where after the first monsoon, I was still completely alone on my island. There was nobody there, and there was a chance, not even a given, but definitely a chance that I would meet another faction after the second monsoon, but it didn't happen. So even after a second monsoon, I was still pretty much alone on my continent, which of course gave me a huge boost because I could just expand, expand, expand without really having to fear any repercussions. Whereas in my second game I played, there was another player on that island. On the like after the first monsoon, I met another player, and we were basically constantly in a turmoil. We always did fight each other, not even having a war. That came a little bit later, but we definitely attacked each other in neutral territory whenever we could, which is a mechanic which is back. And so it's definitely still a little bit finicky in that regard. But then again, you can only have 3 other players on a pretty large map in the version I played. So I'm pretty sure there will be some changes here and there and some more options. Right? Keep in mind, my options were pretty limited at the time, not because the game didn't want to give me that, but because of the version I played. And but that whole gameplay element really feels good. Like it gives you this flow of okay, try to build up, try to claim as much land as possible, try to get the resources you need, try to slowly start the plan on how you want to play this kind of round, right? And this is something I don't like too much with the new Civilization 7. Like, whenever there is a new era, I like the mechanic, but the whole era thing is like interruptions everywhere. Right, you have so many interruptions going on when the new era is kicking in, where it feels like you are basically being kicked back into the game menu, which you kind of are, and then you have to do all those choices again, and it really, really interrupts the game flow. Here, you're not going back anywhere. It's just the natural flow of the game that things are opening more up. More special resources will become available, which also means that you have to check your research and see, okay, wait, there are new materials coming up here which I can utilize to upgrade my units. Can I already upgrade my units? Can I utilize the new mechanics which just became available to me? And if the answer is no, well, then you have a problem and you have to look into that, right? So it's actually also a pretty good way for you to understand how far are you with your progress and do you have to do something about it. Now let's talk about one of the most important aspects in the game, which you will deal with quite often, and that is of course the combat. And as I said, the two factions, the kin of Shayadin and the aspects, feel very different. Like the kin are super tanky. Like they are getting an energy shield every new turn in the combat, which means you have to get through that energy shield every turn to really hurt them. Or they, as a tier 2 unit, they are not getting just a tier 2 unit, they are getting a unit which you can only have once at the beginning. You can increase it a little bit, but not by much. I think you can increase it to 3 or 4. And they are like super strong, super special. They cannot be destroyed. Yes, they can be taken out of the fight, but then they will be teleported back to the city and there will be a repair there, which also means they're keeping all their XP. So they will become much, much stronger later on when they have gained some levels. And they're already at the beginning pretty strong. They are like some big behemoth bronze golems kind of type, and they're really hard to deal with. And this is why they can only have one, right? But it shows you how tanky that faction is, while the aspects are much more nimble, right? And they are also focusing on range damage a little bit. And they don't really have like the defense capabilities. Like one of the big difference at the beginning is that the kin do have like sword and board fighters right from the get-go, right? They have some very tanky tank units, and the aspects don't have that. They have their scout unit they can kind of use as melee fighters, but they are not really good at that. It means it's a scout unit, right? Um, so you have to deal with that, and of course, that's very important when you're working with smaller neutral factions, which you then integrate into your faction. They are also coming with their own special units, and sometimes you will get a neutral faction which is giving you a range unit or giving you a melee tank unit or something like that, and you can use that to cover up your weaknesses you have with your main faction. But again, the combat feels really good. The AI is utilizing your weaknesses and they are trying to utilize the surroundings, so the AI is already really good. By the way, yes, I will make an extra AI video later this week where we are talking a little bit more about it, because there is a whole thing we have to cover, and I want to do that in another video. But I can already tell you the AI is capitalizing on your mistakes. So the only thing which is a bit problematic right now, and again, I don't really want to focus too much on it because it's something which would definitely change, is balance. There are definitely already a few things in the game which are completely out of balance and very OP, like the heroes, for an example. Even in mid game, my hero can decimate armies on its own, and I'm playing like a support hero, but it's so powerful, and that hero has so powerful abilities that they are just a little bit too strong at this point, so they have to rein that in. Or there is the tier 2 unit of the aspects, the horse riders, which have an insane amount of movability, have a lot of health, do quite a bit of damage on their own, but then they have a debuff they are applying on the enemy, which is marking them, and the next unit which will attack that marked unit will have 100% crit chance. And that's just insane in this game, right? So that's like an ability where I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. You can halve a unit in a turn, right? And they can do that every turn. It's a passive. Every time they're attacking an enemy, they are marking them. So they're pretty strong. Again, balance is something they definitely have to work on. But yeah, it's still a few months before the game is releasing, and I'm not too concerned about that right now. But I would say after I reached the end screen, after 125 turns multiple times, I was sad. I wanted to play more. Like, it feels really good. Like, they took a lot of ideas back from the Endless games. They added a little bit of humankind in here and there. And it just feels like the right combination. And the game just gives you this feeling of love and care the developers putting into it. And they really want to make this work. And so far, I'm on board. And I'm looking forward to more for it. With that said, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like. Also, if you're new on the channel and you want to see more strategy games in general, you came to the right place. So don't forget to subscribe if you are so inclined. And also, if you want to see more Endless Legend 2, well, I have two full live streams here on the channel. You will find under the live category, and more videos to come very soon. With that said, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe. Bye bye.